Greetings, gamer. Tim here again today, and I'm playing RPG a Day, Day 21, Day 22, and Day 23 catch-up today. Pardons if this is a little chaotic. There's a storm outside that's thundering a little bit, and I have a big white dog who is panicking and pushing my chair, as you can kind of see. She has wedged herself between part of the desk and the chair and is slowly inching forward. I don't know where she plans to go. I mean, if she parks herself at my feet, I'm good, but she usually doesn't. She usually wants on the desk up here, and that doesn't work because she's a 100-pound dog. Anyway, RPG a Day, Day 21. The kicker for that day is what's your favorite RPG setting. And this is a very difficult one for me to choose. So I'm going to list sort of my top settings as a whole and then give you my penultimate choice of a setting in general. There is a number of fantastic settings that are out there that I enjoy a great deal. Hellas's Worlds of Sun and Stone is fantastic. Talislanta, which is a sort of high magic or high-ish magic sword and sorcery with strangely colored people and tribes and all this crazy stuff out there, is a fantastic setting. It's not very deep, but it's very broad, and that gives you an easy way to jump into the game and play. Atlantis, the Second Age, notably the Capera edition, is also fantastic. It really kind of goes into some of the craziness of how people thought Atlantis really was, and makes a fantastic sword and sorcery game. Then we get to some other games that are closer to my top, and that is Gamma Terra. That is the Gamma World setting of post-apocalyptic Earth. Notably tends to be the United States, but could be anywhere on the Earth after the fallout from the wars, etc. And that is Gamma Terra pre-5th edition. After 5th edition, they start trying to, like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 5th edition and on tries to make sense of why radiation and why mutation bombs and why all this other stuff creates crazy mutants. And here's the thing. I like Gamma Terra when it was just radiation causes mutation and whatever. Here's our backstory, a little bit of it, and this is the world you live in. I've always known, I grew up on comic books. I've known since the first time I picked up Gamma World that that's not how real radiation works. We know that. It's a fantasy conceit for the setting. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the same thing that a radioactive spider bite causes superpowers. So, we don't need to make it nanotech. We don't need to make it other dimensional infiltrations or anything like that. Just go with radiation. It's okay. We know it's not realistic. We don't care. Most of us, anyway. And then we get to my kind of edging for the best place, and that is the Birthright campaign setting for D&D. And it is a fantastic, well-envisioned D&D world that cuts out a lot of the monsters, reduces it reduces a lot of the clutter of D&D to make a world that really does feel closer to the Middle Ages fantasy that D&D was trying to be in 2nd edition. And it does a good job of that. It makes monsters are often unique, or they are descendants of unique individuals, and that creates a much more interesting setting when there's just one Gorgon, or maybe some of his offspring, or one Hydra, and they are epic monsters that you're probably not going to run into with, and a lot of the conflicts is man-to-man. That doesn't mean you won't be fighting monsters, because there are orcs, orogs actually, and other goblins and the like to fight, because there are monsters. But most of the really unique monsters are just that. They're unique individuals. And that makes for a far more epic feeling fantasy campaign. And the fact that you can start out playing a king or a queen or whatever works very well for the setting. And even if you don't start out like that, it's fantastic. Then right there with it is the Dark Sun setting for AD&D. And I like Dark Sun a great deal. When it first came out, I didn't, but it has grown on me over the years. The ideas presented there. It is one of the few settings that I think really showed what D&D could do if you had the freedom to change things. And they didn't have complete freedom because, unfortunately, we still have elves and fundamentally dwarves and the like. But it changed things in a great and notable way and did a very good job of it. So yeah, I like Dark Sun quite a bit. Then I guess my top choice for settings is for a obscure role-playing game that most people haven't heard of called the Providence role-playing game. The Providence role-playing game was set inside a planet, as in you are in the inside crust of a planet, and that planet was originally just a shell, and they exiled because they couldn't fight it. These fairly powerful, godlike, and made magic high people exiled this thing that they could not destroy called the Elothoran Avatar, or Elothorum, I don't remember offhand, but it's a very fantastic setting. And that Avatar was such a powerful being that it changed the inside of this to where it was kind of grew into a living world, but with, of course, Elothoran Avatar's various forms showing up as well. And then they had a great war, these people, and they exiled their prisoners to the inside of the world as well, into prison cities. And I mean, it was apparently a big war because they have huge cities with millions of people that are literally in this planet centuries later. Now they could have put just a few, and they've grown since then. But it's a fantastic setting because it is interesting, it's unique, it's deep, it's also broad. It basically gives you a magical reason for superpowers. It has magic. It has, most fantasy archetypes, but it doesn't have elves and dwarves and your typical Tolkienisms, which I love Tolkienisms. So don't mistake me. I love Lord of the Rings. I love elves and dwarves in the right frame of mind, but Providence goes away from that. Instead, your races are all winged peoples and their relatives, because some of them are not winged. But it's a caste-based system based on whether you fly well, you don't fly well, you have wings but can't fly, you just glide, or you don't have wings at all. And that's the hierarchy from up top to bottom. So a non-winged person, in most circumstances, is considered the lowest of the low. And it creates a lot of conflict in the setting. Now, it seems to be that it was probably what the original war was over was something similar to that, was a caste-based system, and they seem to have re-implemented it on this world. So we're not quite sure who were the winners and who were the losers. Because it could have been that they exiled a bunch of people who opposed the caste system, but over the centuries it reimposed itself. But they exist in a world that doesn't have normal animals. There's no dogs, there's no cats, there are things that fit those archetypes, but they are not the same things. There is a shark, but it is a very unique shark that lives in one of the shallow seas on this world. And the sun is a magical glowing ball in the sky that grows brighter during the day and darker at night. And the whole world has day-night cycle at the same time because it's on the inside of this sphere. And of course there's conflict with rising superpowers, magical powers that have appeared, various guilds and organizations, various problems of the world like the Elothoran Avatar, and the fact that the world is beginning to fall apart. Whatever power put it together is beginning to flood it, to break it into pieces, etc. And that's tied a little bit to magic in the setting. And it creates a very useful, functional setting. I know a lot of people are going to say Glorantha. Glorantha is a great setting, but I basically find Glorantha still in that, it's a good setting. It's a great setting, but it just didn't click for me the way Providence or Talislanta or Birthright or Dark Sun or any of the ones I've named did. So these are all great settings for different things at different times and different kinds of gaming. And there are thousands of different settings out there in this world of gaming we have. Different game rules to go with them, but you can always hack those out and get your own game rules for most games. So those are my top end favorites. And this is just day 21. Day 22 is your favorite game. I'm going to completely rule out any of my own games from the beginning and the get-go, and instead pick this one. I'm looking for the major book. Oh, there we go. That is the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, Phase Rip, as it is often called. It uses the color-coded chart. It is a fantastic, simple, original game system that worked very, very well for what it did. And I know some people like more over-the-top four-color superheroes. Some people like grittier, darker, Iron Age superheroes. But for the 1980s, when this, 1990s, 80s, and 90s when this came out, it did the superheroes that Marvel was doing at the time, which were not quite our Iron Age. They were late, what some people call the Copper Age, or the early Dark Age, depending on which breakdown you read of. But that is one of my favorite gaming systems. Everything can be done off one chart. Once you've got characters generated and everything, and it gives you incredible results, like whether you've killed somebody and they're dying, whether you've knocked them into near orbit, whether you stun them, etc., etc., etc. It gives you all this information on one chart and a little color-coded bar that shorthands everything. And it's a really great system. Now, there are other game systems I love almost as much. The card-based Marvel Saga system is one. Star Frontiers is one. Lots of different games. But if I had to pick one game that I could only use for the rest of my gaming life, it would be that Marvel superhero game. Because I can take it and do anything with it. I can do fantasy, I can do sci-fi, I can do superheroes, I could do Nor games. Yeah, it will take a little bit of crunching to change around some of the rules to make those genres a little more appropriate, but it does most of it well. And it can be kind of lethal if you're using lethal style weapons, guns and swords and stuff. So it works well for a fantasy game or something that is grittier, as well as working for superheroes that are not over the top. Where they do anything and everything. Well, sometimes they run into problems they just can't brute force through. And it works very well. So that is day 22. Now, day 23 is perfect gaming environment. That is evidently not here because I'm being barked at by the same dog. Apparently she's wanting attention. Now, perfect gaming environment for me is sitting in a room comfortably with people preferably that I like, I get along with, we have a good sense of humor, and we're around a table. Now, I have run games sitting on the floor while other people sat on couches and comfortable chairs because I was more comfortable sitting on the floor. I have run games where I paced back and forth through a room where people are in similar seating arrangements. But I like sitting at a table. I like being able to spread stuff out and look at it. And if I have to reference a book, I'm able to flip the book open on the table, and so on and so forth, or have a laptop out. Because I am very much a digital organizing person. Now, lately, I've been shutting off the PC and just doing handwritten notes, but I really hate doing handwritten stuff. I don't mind drawing maps that way. I don't mind drawing pictures of things that are going on, but I hate my handwriting and my printing. I just know. Because one of the few things that I get very, very annoyed at is how my letters look. So my perfect gaming environment tends to have my laptop out. Would you chill? My co-host, ladies and gentlemen, my annoying dog, which you can't see because she's just short enough to be out of the camera range. Anyway, but as I said, it would be a little chaotic today. But that's my perfect gaming environment. At a table where I can roll dice, and if people need a visual representation like a game map unfolded, then I can do that. So those are the 3 days I'm playing catch up on. I should be able to stay caught up on the rest of the week, at least until Friday again, and hopefully. So peace and good gaming, since I've got to cut some of this chaos down. Good night.